All right, hey for lifers. It's been a while. Chatterday is back. First episode of season 3, the first one in 2024. It's already the last quarter of the year, essentially. But I'm glad to be here. For those of you who haven't been living under a rock, you know that Transformers 1 has come out, and it's the newest in the Transformers franchise. And it's the first animated one that we've had in quite a while. And there have been a lot of positive reviews on it. So not just from critics, but fans alike. So I wanted to get this together to see what the community thinks, what are the good, the bad, the ugly, as usual. Before we get started, let me go ahead and present our deck here. Let's see. Wait, which one is it? Wait. Hold on. I lost it here. Oh, it's making me provide permissions on this. Give me a second. All right, well, that's not going to work. All right, so we'll do it this way then. Do that. And nope, that's not going to work either. All right, here, we'll do it a different way then. Add it as a guest then. Man, I haven't used this in so long that I don't even know if I'm doing this correctly.
Shake off the rust.
I know.
It's been almost 10 months since the last one.
I know. So I'm going to share this here.
That puts us at like a year from when I last participated in the trivia.
I know. It's crazy. So let's go to slideshow mode. There we go. All right. So we'll do it a little janky. But so you were here with Transformers 1, the Chatterday edition. So first and foremost, I did want to introduce some of the folks that we have on here, folks that we've had before, and sure, girl. And I think everyone's been on the show before, at least once. So let's start off with JUNKMECH. Why don't you give us a little bit of background of what you do in the community, how we might get in touch with you if you want to share some of the cool custom stuff that you do. And anything else that you want to talk about real quick.
Yeah, sure. I'm JUNKMECH. I mostly kind of dwell on like the Show Z Discord and Pake's Discord with a little bit of time on Twitter. I mostly do like repair stuff, maintenance stuff, some custom work. I recently put together my first full model, actually, which is these guys, ankles for MP Skyfire.
Hold on,
design those from scratch.
Yeah. Show that off again real quick. Now that
yeah, sure. Right here. So it's a custom piece made to fit right in his ankle and replace the crappy ones that he comes with. So I made those, and then I also do custom paint and stuff. I've been working on masking up a head right now for fans' hobby, Meg Tyranno. I was complaining to Solus earlier, but masking is super hard. But yeah, if you want to get in touch with me, I'm on Discord, I'm on Twitter, just feel free to reach out. If you have anything broken, I'm happy to walk you through fixing it.
No, awesome. Yeah, and I think you did a couple of iterations or several iterations of that ankle fix, and I think you said the final one's like a metal 3D print. Is that what?
Yeah, so I did a metal 3D print of this, but it was kind of prohibitively expensive. It was like $50-something for just this. So I gave up on it. But I was talking to the admin of the Pake Discord, Badger, and what I'm planning to do is I'm going to get an aluminum fabricating like smelter put together, so I can just cast them in aluminum, and then I'll be able to distribute these forged aluminum ankle pieces. So we're getting there. It'll come in time, and this will be hopefully the first of many custom parts that I put together. So yeah, that's the very first one. It went through like a million iterations. I had to learn a 3D modeling program just to do that.
Nice. Which one are you using?
Fusion 360.
360.
Because it has millimeter measurements by default.
Gotcha. All right. Next up, Solus.
Bruh, it's been like I've been on 3 Chatterdays and you still pronounce my name wrong.
Solus.
Okay. What's up, guys? I'm Solus. Solus Convoy on YouTube. I make videos on smaller Transformers toys because my budget is smaller. I'm also active on the Show Z Discord. Pake's Discord. I forget what else. I don't have a Twitter, unfortunately, but yeah, I am active on Discord. I mostly just exist and whine about toys. That's pretty much it. I am the diversity hire for age, by the way. So I am the under 25 diversity hire. So
That is
happy to
true.
be here.
How much longer until your diversity?
We've had like 2 full years, about 19 months, as long as I'm under 25.
Oh,
so
geez.
After that, you can fire me.
All right. Thanks, Solus. And then last but not least, Petrawseome. Probably pronouncing his name wrong too.
No, you got that right. Or I go by, Petra for short. So I'm active on Pake's Discord, post, pictures of stuff I get and talk about all things Transformers, action figures with people.
And, what was the most recent one that you were posting? Was it the Prime behind you right there?
Yeah, the Takara Brave Commander.
I know. So I know you said it wasn't worth $80, but do you really like it?
I do. I think it's probably the best one that's out so far.
Do you think it's a worthy leader class though?
I'd say it's like on par with like older leaders. I mean, the plastic feels cheaper, but other than that, it's like got some gimmicks and stuff. So.
And does it have some of the Takar goodness, like more paint or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's got some nice silver paint on the shins, the side. It's painted pretty nicely, except for the gray.
Yeah, I asked Eddie at Toy Dojo because he got some in, and I was like, "So, what are your thoughts on it?" He's like, "It's already my early order's already sold out." I was like, "Well, then never mind," because he's sending me a box full of stuff this week. I should get on Monday, so including Gary, which is Fans Toy Scrapper, which will be exciting because my shipment that he sent to me has been delayed, and I won't get that until like Thursday or Friday. So, all right, great. So, thanks everyone for making it today. We're going to go straight into the discussion, but no, actually that's a lie. It wouldn't be a Chatterday without our favorite segment, this or that. I'm just going to do a short one because I wanted to focus on the I do want to focus on the discussion itself, but I always want to have some interaction with the audience and the live stream. So let me just start a poll real quick. So if you haven't done this with us before, or if you're new here, what we do is a live chat. We're going to put the poll up, and you basically have to choose this or that. You can't sit in the middle. You got to choose one of these. And we're usually comparing two different things. So for today, we're comparing live action Transformers movies with animated / CGI. What is your preference here? So let me start the poll, and let me flip here. So we got live action, not necessarily Bayverse or Michael Bay directed, but any of the live action ones that we've had. How many we have? 6?
7.
7?
Yeah, 7.
I can't even keep track.
Bumblebee counts. So.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. And then animated. So if you're talking about the 86 or CGI with the Transformers 1, what is your preference in terms of media? Maybe some of the young ones like Solus are all about the live action because he doesn't know better. He hasn't lived in the glory days until now. Or maybe you're just an old fogey like me and you're like, animation, OG, G1 for life kind of stuff, right? So I'm going to let the poll run for just a little bit while we go through and ask our guests what their preferences are. So since I already called out Solus, why don't we go with you?
Well, that's a hard question, I guess, because I mean, we have 2 good animated movies, right? And then we have like 2 good live action movies and 4 that could maybe not exist, and it wouldn't really make a difference. I do think that the live action movies were better for widestream appeal, at least, because they really did Transformers in 2007 to 2011 was really like a cultural phenomenon. So like a lot of people got into the whole brand. Like I didn't just get into the movies, right? I got into everything. And when I was like 7, I wanted G1 toys. So all of it was pretty good for me. Animated just has a higher output, more consistent, I feel, and it's easier to make a Transformers movie in animation, but sometimes CGI feels more impressive. So I voted the live action just because I feel like I just really like 2007, man. That's just the crux of it. That's just the crux of it. If you made me choose one Transformers movie, gun to my head, it's always going to be 2007.
All right, that's fine. All right, so we got one for live action. Let's go to you, Petrawseome.
So if you asked me before this movie came out, I probably would have said live action because that's what I grew up with. But I have more hope for the animated stuff now. So I'd probably go with the animated now just because they can focus more on the Transformers. They don't have to spend a lot of time on humans to save money on their budget and stuff like that. So
all right. So we had a potential fence sitter, but now we got one for each. All right, JUNKMECH, where were you at?
I'm gonna go probably animated. I've got a lot of bias for the '86 movie, though I haven't watched it in a couple years. But my thing with it is, I don't know. I think if I had to pick, I would prefer to rewatch the animated movies than the live action ones. And 07, while it is a good one, and I do really like that movie, it was also like, I mean, I was in high school in 07, and I remember I watched it, and I'm like, okay. And then I fell off the franchise. I completely dropped off of Transformers for like 10 years because of the 07 movie for some reason.
What? Not the first
I don't know. And that, and like, I think Rise of Beasts was kind of a stinker, and I'm worried that's kind of where the live action movies are going to go. So if I was going to throw my lot in, I'd say animated.
All right. So I'm also in the animated camp. I do think it's kind of interesting because we were talking very similarly about that. The whole live action, the wide spread appeal with some of the friends I was talking to, and funnily enough, I think it was T-Man who said that he thought Rise of Beasts was very good, and he just recently rewatched it a second time and enjoyed it better the second time, which I thought was interesting.
I'd have to rewatch it.
I think I agree with Shirakuro, though, that out of all of them, I think Bumblebee is still my favorite movie. I think it's the best of the Transformers movies as a movie, but it's probably not the best Transformers movie, if that makes sense. I think it's the best story, and like I love that. But as far as Transformer centric, it was very small, and again more of a coming of age kind of ET story than it was a Transformers story. So we got 3 for animated and 1 for live action in the Chatterday crew here today. Let's see what the folks out in TV land or internet.
I'm getting cooked.
All right, let's see here.
Oh, diversity.
Oh man, this or that. We got 81% saying the animated CGI and then live action. So that's a tough one. I mean, do you guys feel, because I recently read or heard read a quick article that kind of said one of the reasons that they went with live action was to have more of that widespread appeal. Do you think that actually helped, or maybe the fact that we didn't get a lot of humans in the 2 animated movies, maybe that's why it's not doing particularly well?
I think the live action movies really started to suck after the second one or after the first one. So like if you make bad movies, even if they sell, eventually people are going to lose faith in you, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look at the box office for the Transformers movie, the first one is good. So the movie after does well. Revenge of the Fallen was terrible. It still did well. Dark of the Moon does okay domestic. It does great in China, makes a lot of money. Age of Extinction does terrible in the States, makes like $600 million in China because that's when the Chinese box office blew up and everybody made money in China in 2014.
Yeah.
And then the last night
added a lot of Chinese like scenes in from that.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last night nobody watched it in either country, and the budget and it did terrible, and they lost $200 million. So I mean, I think if the live action movies had at least remained at like the 6 out of 10 that 07 was objectively, even though I love it, they would have done way better. But like Revenge of the Fallen is arguably like a 2 out of 10, right? Dark of the Moon is like a 5. Age of Extinction is like a 2. Last Night is like a 1, but it is more funny than Age of Extinction because Age of Extinction is just painful to watch.
Bumblebee's like a 7 or an 8.
Yeah, I know, but they released Bumblebee in like the holiday season, and like I guess it just didn't do. It did really well for like what it was, but it didn't really like explode. You know what I mean? It didn't have like
that. But it got my wife to like Transformers, so that's a win.
That's good. That's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
My favorite live action movie for that reason alone. It's the only one I can get her to watch with me.
All right, well let's go ahead and get into the discussion. We're kind of already bleeding into it, but we're gonna go into the movie reviews. So we're gonna kind of go through it in the good, the bad, and the ugly types of categories. So so I think overall let me just check. Did we all feel that the movie overall was good? Let's just and make sure that we're all kind of on the same page that we all enjoyed it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we all would probably have a good, I think.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
let's start with that. And I wanted to start with Petrawseome to see if he had specific opinions, but I also wanted to add good or bad in the live chat while you start your kind of high level assessment on what are the things that you thought were really good about the movie that you wanted to share and see and discuss.
So I was really surprised by how good the voice acting actually was, considering his voices we're not used to for those characters. And I think the pacing was also really good. It didn't feel like it was slow or anything like that. And I think just having a very compelling story really kind of propels this up above a lot of the older movies.
So one of the things that you touched on that I wanted to discuss, because I think it's been discussed quite a bit, is the voice acting. So before I go, any opinions on that first? Oops, sorry.
The voice acting in particular.
Yeah.
I thought that Brian Tyree Henry was a terrific Megatron.
Mhm.
I think
Absolutely.
he was the standout of the cast for sure, and he's also an established voice actor already, so it kind of made sense.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he voice acted Miles' dad in Spider-Verse for both movies.
Oh,
I didn't even know.
I can hear that. Yeah.
And then Keegan was pretty good as Bumblebee. I thought that it
Mhm.
was a good performance, even if you kind of could tell it was Keegan-Michael Key, but just like the Mario movie, I felt like he was doing adequate for the role that they assigned to him. And then
Scarlett
Hemsworth.
Johansson.
What about the Marvel folks? What about the
I
Marvel?
want to do Scarlett last, but Hemsworth was like, at first I thought it was gonna be terrible because I thought it was just like a stunt casting, but honestly I think he put in the work. He had like some times where I felt like it was rough, but it was at least at every point in time it was at least serviceable. At no point was he a detriment to the film. Could the delivery been better with like someone like Gary Chalk or David Kay? Sure, but I understand like the biggest name in the movie has to be a Hollywood A-lister, or I guess an A-lister if you do Marvel. I don't know if he actually has A-lister power, but I thought he was great. My main issue is Scarlett Johansson, because it was
She just sounded like herself.
Exactly. I think that's because she probably wasn't actually in the booth when she filmed those lines. I think she just basically dubbed them over in a separate studio.
Yeah, I don't think she did it along
probably,
with other actors at all.
I think she was
Like
filming
sitting on her
Jurassic Park.
phone in the Marvel studio or something.
She was filming Jurassic Park, I think, or a Jurassic World movie. I forgot what they're calling
the
the new
new
trilogy.
Jurassic. I forget what it's called. Like
I don't think it was bad because she doesn't really have like a bad voice, but it really felt like uninspired, especially next to like Keegan-Michael Key and Brian Tyree Henry, I guess.
Okay, all right. Anybody share similar differing opinions on that?
As far as Chris Hemsworth goes, because I know he's kind of divisive. He had that speech at the very end, where he's like doing his Optimus Peter Cullen impression, and I thought he did a pretty good job. He intentionally did the deeper voice at the very end for the closing monologue, and I was like, I buy it. I buy it as like an Optimus voice.
That's so funny you said that because I thought his voice acting through most of it, like the actual acting itself was fine, but his weird American accent.
Yeah, his Chris
Yeah.
Hemsworth voice.
Because you heard it like just creeping in his original like Australian accent in some places, and it's just like I don't know. It was just like something picking at my brain the whole time. But at the end, when he did the change voice, which I appreciate that he did do kind of an evolution of the character and the voice to align with that. I thought that was good. So if we have him like that moving forward, I think I'm okay. But I actually thought he was the worst. Like Scarlett, I've never really been a big fan of her kind of I don't know, what do they call that kind of voice? Like kind of a not husky, what is it? Like kind of scratchy. Raspy, yeah. Like I've never been a fan of that because she was also like the voice of like her, right? In that was that was her, right?
I think so, yeah. The one where he falls in love with the computer.
Yeah, exactly.
Movie
like,
I can't watch.
I just that I don't know. I've never found it particularly attractive, but I thought she did a good job as RC though, in terms of like, very not Alita, in terms of like very strict by the book. So
yeah, I think it was a good cast choice as far as like what she sounds like specifically for the character. But I still think it was. I don't know. I still don't love her that much. I'm with you on that.
I actually forgot to mention the best voice acting performance in the movie, which was Lawrence Fishburne as Alpha Trion.
Oh yeah, he was kind of the best performance, other than
Ham as Sentinel was also pretty good. I also liked Arachnid. Buscemi Steve was kind of ass.
Yeah,
that was kind of
is that him? I was like, that sounds like
when I saw the credits, I thought he was I thought he played Sentinel.
It was John Hamm, right? John Hamm.
It was John Hamm. Yeah, it was John Hamm.
Yeah.
But when Starscream first starts speaking, before Megatron strangles him, when he first starts screaming, you're like, wow, that is straight up Steve, and that is terrible. That is ass. But then they choked him out, and then it was like all of a sudden like the super high pitch, like kind of like evoking the Chris Latta voice.
Yeah,
not
it was
good,
very
but it was
that they went with that, and like just the short time they had with them, they like sort of developed that character already, even a little bit.
Yeah.
So. All right, so we talked about that. So Petrawseome had his kind of take. JUNKMECH, what about you? What are some good parts besides some of the voice acting and maybe some of the other stuff that Petrawseome talked about?
I just want to reiterate, because Petrawseome was totally right for it. The pacing. When I was talking, I called my wife on the drive home because I saw it in the theater by myself at like 11, and I was on the drive home. And I'm like, yeah, the pacing was really good. Like it stood out to me how well paced it is. It felt like it was a longer movie than it was, but like in a good way. It did so much with its time. It maximized its time so much that it really just felt like well executed in that way. I think like the world building was pretty good. I liked seeing Cybertron as like a place people actually live, instead of just like this abstract like spires and kind of Art Deco sci-fi whatever. It was cool to see it kind of fleshed out as a real place that people could actually be. Well, people. I thought the music was pretty good. I was consistently like, yeah, this sound, it never like was distracting, but I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. And I think the thing that blew me away was like the visual style, the way everything looked. Like, we'll save it for later, but I have takes about some of it. But the actual movie, like the scenery and like the framing and the color and everything, I thought was really well done, and I thought it looked like really good. It looked like a real animated movie.
Yeah, I think the pacing is a really good point. Like, at no point was I like, oh, this is getting a little
dragging on or something.
Yeah, and then sometimes if I get bored with movies, even in the theater, I'll like check my phone or something like that. Nothing in this movie made me like, ugh, this is such a drag, right? Like, I guess I'll talk to it on the bad part, but that said, I think overall I agree with both of you. The pacing was good, and I actually was surprised at how long it was. I think it was like an hour and 50 minutes or something like that, which was longer than I was expecting for an animated movie, which is good. They gave it enough time, I feel like, to get through the various arcs and so forth. So, all right, Solus, what about you?
I think the good part is that this is the first Transformers movie in like maybe like 12 years, 10 years, no more, like 15 years that I've left the theater without a headache. Like Age of Extinction gave me like a 2-day migraine. The Last Night gave me a headache when I watched it at home. Bumblebee didn't, but I missed that one in the theaters. Rise of the Beast gave me a headache. It's a small one. Dark of the Moon gave me a pretty big headache, and I was like 12 and I loved the Bayverse at that time. So like, it's not just like a length thing. Like the movie just like, it wasn't painful at any point. Like at no point in time did like the director remind you that he doesn't like you, or that like the people in charge of the movie like don't like the movie.
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean by like headache? I mean, was it like a physical headache from
Yeah,
like
like a physical headache. Like I mean like
or
an
was it just
actual
like, oh, this is so bad, I have a headache kind
No,
of
not
thing?
like it's so bad. Just like I guess like I got tired. Like a lot of the Bayverse movies, like sometimes they're like really like they're really loud, like visually and
Yeah.
like actually
Yes.
loud. Like Dark of the Moon's final battle is like epic or whatever, but it also like is actually physically taxing to experience. And like Age of Extinction is literally just physically taxing to experience because the sound design is not great despite the score being awesome. So this movie I thought was like the sound design was really good. It was loud when it needed to be and it was relaxed when it needed to be. I thought the world building, like as an actual Transformers movie, having world building was fantastic. I gotta be honest, like the lighting was really good. ILM came back for this movie, and I think that's what really killed Rise of the Beast visually was that the lighting was god awful at points, especially when they were in Peru. The lighting was just really bad. They looked really flat.
Brown.
Yeah, but then like this movie, like you could tell ILM, like they locked in, and even if like the designs don't look like if you don't like them, like I'm still not sold on some of the designs, but like the actual physical presentation of the film on screen was pleasant, if that makes sense. Like I enjoyed watching the movie.
Easy on the eyes.
That sounds really simple to say, but it's
Like
kind of a
that.
hard thing to do with Transformers movies.
You guys are paying attention way more than me, or really, care about that stuff more than me. I guess I'm not as observant. No, I think those are really good insights as well. So for me, I think one of the things that I really liked about it that I thought was good and kind of surprising was like the whole framing of the characters, the early characters of Megatron and Optimus. Optimus being like the brash, like upstart, and Megatron being like the by the book straight character on that. Not like obviously sexually, but I mean the straight character and like this odd couple, right? Like
the straight man, as they say.
Straight man, right? And then even just the subtleties. The only lighting thing that I think everybody noticed was like the subtle changing of his eye colors. As he became more disappointed, disenchanted with the whole lie that he was told and everything like that. And you can really feel that it's not just very superficial where they lied to me, I'm mad, right? And like I think the one part that I thought was really, really surprising, and I was going to save some of this for the bad though, was that I thought the movie itself, while it was good, the story was super predictable. The only part that I really, really enjoyed and was surprised about was the line when he was saving Optimus and he's like, "I'm done saving you." Like that caught me off guard. I didn't think he would go like that dark that fast, right? Like right after he saved him, I thought he was gonna be like, no, I'm sorry, or something like that, kind of more cliche. But he was like immediately like, "I'm done."
Yeah, I'm over it.
He was like, I'm out, I'm done. But yeah, and then the immediate change to red there, like that was really cool. So
yeah, I think the character writing is something we can say was probably a strong suit.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which is crazy considering these movies.
Considering that's a Transformers movie.
Yeah. I'm done having yellow eyes. That's amazing.
No, I think so. As a whole, it's been great. So one of the things I did want to show, I hit it here for a bit. So one of the things I did want to show was that this is probably the most highly regarded, like of the Transformers films, like universally. So for those of you who don't like watch or read Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter is the one that is kind of the aggregate score of like critics. So critics, people who know movies and stuff like that. And to get an 89% from critics is super high.
Crazy.
Usually see like, movies like this, especially pop culture movies, do pretty poorly.
Like 35.
Tomato reader with the critics, and then do really well with the fans who don't care about all that stuff, right? But to have them both really high was really surprising. So clearly, just as we've all kind of universally loved it, I think if we look at the poll here real quick, let me take a quick pause here. 80% of the people in the audience that are watching with us also loved it, which is, I think, really high. You probably wouldn't get that from most of the other Transformers movies. I'd have to look back and see what Bumblebee got, because I think that's probably...
I got a comment, actually.
Oh, okay.
Bumblebee scored a 91 on the tomato meter, but a 70 on the audience score.
See, I think that goes back to what I said. It's a good movie, but not a good Transformers movie.
I think a lot of people were disappointed by like, I think the first 5 minutes, like some people like, I just want the first 5 minutes of Bumblebee. Some people like were disappointed by the rest because it's an entirely different movie. The introduction scene was filmed after they decided we're not going to connect it to the Bayverse. The rest of the movie was already done.
Yeah, freaking sensed it earlier. The first 5 minutes of the movie. The full movie.
So, the super high audience score though is crazy because like 07, right, is like a 61 from the critics and like an 87 from the audience, and like all the other Transformers movies just like plummet, right? I think one of them, I think Age of Extinction might be in the 20s from the critics and like a 50 audience score, which is yeah, but this type of universal performance, and like some people, you know, like if they have to pick a bone with it, they'll be like, well, you know, that just means people said it was okay because it doesn't actually mean like they rated it like a 5 out of 5, right? Like if it's but
it's like a percent of positive reviews versus negative, right? It's not actually based on scoring.
Exactly, but I still think this level of performance for, again, a Transformers movie is kind of unprecedented. I don't think any of us expected like a universally well-regarded Transformers film.
Yeah, I agree.
The trailers certainly didn't make it look. That's
we'll talk about that later.
Okay, so let's go to bad, and again we can bounce around a bit. We don't have to stick to this strictly, but let me go over to the bad here.
I think the trailer might actually qualify for the ugly.
It could be both.
Could be. So let's talk about the bad. So let's go backwards in order, right? Oh, actually, I don't want to go back. I want to go first on the ugly section. So let's go with Solus first. What are your things on the bad here?
So the first thing I thought that was like kind of bad. One of the things I noticed was that like all of the miners were basically like stereotypical Autobots, which kind of felt weird, especially since like a lot of Autobots have been characterized as being like social elites before the war, and pretty much like every continuity. Like Mirage is famously like a rich guy, right? Like Jazz is like usually like a musician of some sort. So it felt kind of weird to see like, at least I think like I felt like they could have saved some of those characters. Like there are a lot of Autobots in Icon City, but I felt like some of the minor choices were a bit like, it just seems like we're putting like almost main character Autobots or second tier Autobots as minors. But like
I remember there was like part of some of the folks that were in the race, which were not minors, right? So what was in Skyfire or Jetfire? One of the
so like
Skyfire was in like third place in the race, I think.
It was Skydive, actually, not Skyfire. Skydive.
Oh, really?
You had Skydive, Fireflight. I remember I saw Tailgate, Chromia. I think Mirage was actually maybe in the race. Flamore. Some Stunticons were actually in Icon City. Motormaster, Dead End.
You guys caught a lot more of it than I did.
Yeah,
I was in a theater completely by myself, so I'm biased.
Action Masters in the list, honestly, which was kind of funny because Action Masters you think would always be minors because they can't transform.
Yeah.
And I guess like the one thing, I guess maybe like some of the designs, like I feel like the minor designs, I think I agree for budget and time. They probably did this like to like be efficient with their time, but I think a lot of the minors were copy and pasted the same character models with just like superficial edits, and a lot of the Icon City
like
bots,
4 Einhides.
Yeah, a lot of the. Well, I mean, to be fair, people will be like, "Well, those are cameos because it's a Diaclone deco and the Bayverse deco," and then like because they did have the Diaclone Ironhide, which was kind of cool. So I forgot to mention the good, but the Easter eggs were actually really great. But I guess, you know, like the Icon City characters also reuse a lot of the same character models. I couldn't tell Dreadwing and Darkwing apart at all because they just like a minor color difference because they were basically identical twins. I wish they'd use at least like the G1 decos for those maybe so they were easier to differentiate. And I guess my biggest criticism for the film is probably better for the ugly, but it's the fact that like in true Paramount fashion, they kind of engineered its downfall from the start without anything to do with the actual movie, simply by releasing a trailer so disingenuous to the actual product that like the movie is underperforming financially. And now people are like concerned we won't get a sequel, which sucks because it's a great movie and it absolutely deserves a sequel on merit alone.
I mean, yeah, I agree. Like just pulling that string a bit, like when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, this looks like I don't want to watch it at all."
Yeah.
And I think
I wasn't going to see it.
I wasn't going to see it until Solus saw it, and he was like, "No, the trailers were just bad."
Yeah, I told him to shut up and go watch it. So
yeah, I mean, they definitely made it try to be more kid friendly. They did play up some of the humor parts, and I mean, I guess that's good for some of the audience, but I don't know. Like, I feel like they're still on like the whole. Even though I feel like on the toys, they're changing their mindset about adult collectors being maybe one of the core or the core of the Transformers franchise now. I feel like in the movies that they're still targeting like kids in a lot of ways. So, but I think the final trailer did a much better job, but it came out like just a couple days before like the actual movie. I think when I saw it, I was like, oh, this trailer is way better than the previous one. So, I mean, I think if maybe they didn't want to like show some of the not darker sides, but more serious sides of that, because maybe they wanted to keep that for some of the actual reactions, like the Megatron story arc and stuff like that. But I don't know. Like, I felt like they definitely shot themselves in the foot with that when hardcore fans like ourselves were like, I'm gonna wait for it to come out on, whatever, streaming or watch it at
like
home.
Shiro.
Yeah, exactly. We had to peer pressure you and Shiro to go watch it. Which, again, hardcore folks like us having to be convinced is a very bad sign. So
the trailer felt like a late stage MCU movie that's like crippled out of the gate with like a million diseases, like a sickly dying dog. I mean, it's just like it felt like a modern product. Like it didn't feel like an actual movie that you would want to watch, because it felt like even if ILM is doing this, even if there's like celebrity voice acting, like it just feels like, I mean, I honestly didn't even mind like the bad Acetron joke like in person, but when you put that like smack and dab in the trailer, when the rest of the trailer is also kind of like, oh, look at me, I'm quirky. It's just like, man.
Yeah.
And like that doesn't even represent the actual movie. Like nobody who watched the movie is talking about bad Acetron. Everyone's talking about how good the actual movie was, right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
I did talk about it in a negative way.
Well, we're in the bad section, so JUNKMECH, why don't you go talk about what you mean?
Yeah, so as far as like bad, like I'm being careful to divide the ugly and the bad in my mind, but the bad for me, like one of the standouts was probably the writing for Bumblebee. Like I think in the film itself, it was less bad than I thought. But I also feel like he was kind of written to be like the trailer guy. They wanted to kind of market the movie in a very specific way, and I feel like they just kind of shunted about 90% of that onto the writing for Bumblebee specifically. They're like, we got to have somebody say these lines because we want to put them in the trailer and kind of market it toward, kind of the more general movie audience, I think. And I think that kind of did disservice to Bumblebee as a character, and I mean even kind of the voice talent they got for him, because I think Keegan-Michael Key did a good job. Like I was like, yeah, he sounds good as Bumblebee, but I just think I think it kind of did a disservice to the movie a little bit to even have to shove those in there. I mean, I was in the theater completely by myself. I was in the middle of the theater, nobody else in there but me. So I was free to kind of react how I wanted, and I really I think I physically went ugh. I was like ugh when we had his character intro and he like opens the curtains for his little buddies, and like, it was kind of cute, but I think I physically went ugh because I just was so like, okay. I get it. This has had enough.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's one of my bad. Like he wasn't bad as a whole, but I think especially since he's like one of the main characters, one of the most recognizable characters and biggest sellers, to make him so much of a joke character, especially since he has so much lore around him. Maybe they have him plan to develop more as a character in the future ones, should they ever come out, the sequels to come out. But I felt like they just made him, and Solus touched on it, they made him like the Toad of this movie, right? Same thing, like the trailers for the Super Mario movie had Toad with the cringy one-liner jokes and stuff like that, and he played that character. And again, maybe they needed that for some demographic, right? But
well, like I think it speaks to like his role in the movie, that anytime anything serious is happening with Megatron or Optimus and there's drama happening on screen, Bumblebee is generally not there, or if he is there, he's not participating, or he's just in the background and you see him react. Right. Like he doesn't get to talk or influence most of these major scenes. Like there's that one scene when Megatron, before he's Megatron, he's standing up to Sentinel, and Bumblebee gets one line in that whole scene where he's like, I think you should just, stay down or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's his only contribution to the whole thing. Like, yeah, I think it speaks to kind of what they had planned for him for that. I will say, though, on the flip side of the bad, my favorite line in the whole movie was also said by Bumblebee right at the very end. And he's like, I get to work for the government. It was probably my favorite line in the movie. It got me to laugh, like, genuinely. So he both has, like, all the worst lines and the best, probably the best line, in my opinion.
I mean, do you do any kind of, like, government work or anything like that? Or
I'm actually in the process of getting a government job right now.
Well, I mean, I do government contracting for most of my career. So that, like, definitely made me laugh genuinely. It was, like, one of the few things just because it came out of nowhere, too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you highlighted it. The bad Assetron bit when he's introducing himself to Alita was so hard to watch. True, I cringed at that scene. I gotta agree, man. That was it
was rough.
It was pretty uncomfortable. It was pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, where he just kept saying it over and over again. I didn't care for that.
I know people like that.
Do they really?
I don't think it's a good one where it was a callback where they did it like 3 times. Like, I don't think that worked. But Professor Soundwaves coming in with the hot take. We don't have hot take this time segment, but
that's hot.
He said Megatron's voice was meh. I thought we all really liked it. Again, I think especially as it grew more dark. Like at the beginning, I was like, but as he gets more dark, I was like, okay, this could be my Megatron for sure.
I think a lot of people don't really realize throughout the movie he's not Megatron yet. He's D16, so he doesn't really have that Megatron-esque voice until the very end. So
he kind of grows into it.
Yeah,
just like the whole movie kind of grows into itself.
I mean, to be fair though,
that name, I just kept thinking like a D16 dice. I don't even play.
Yeah, I feel like for being like a major character, they could have given him anything else, because like Bumblebee, he's B whatever, and they just call him B, which is fine. That checks out to me. And then the whole movie, the whole time, everybody doesn't even call him just like D. He's D16 the whole time.
Calls him D. Orion calls him D.
Oh, does
he?
Yeah, a couple times.
Okay.
Everyone else calls him D16.
I actually didn't know the lore. Is this from like his the comic books? Because I don't remember.
So IDW popularized it as his minor name when he was a minor in IDW. Right. The origin is his original designation number in the Tokara toy line because he was Destron 16.
Yeah. That's kind of a deep cut.
But IDW made it mainstream, I think, or at least mainstream in the fandom.
Right.
But I guess I guess Megatron has had a lot of different voices, and a lot of them don't work for some people. Like some people don't like the Hugo. It's more like subjective. I feel like it might not just work for you, and I get that. I get that. I guess I forgot to touch on this, but one of the things I did not like was I don't really know if I liked the Death Tracker design too much.
Oh, like the Viacons?
I like simply because I think there were gold ones and silver ones, but they were both like the same body type, and usually you figure the color differentiations for the ground guys and the flying guy. It was just it's a really minor nitpick, but I feel like if they were going to color differentiate them, they would have I guess the gold ones were Sentinel's Elite Guard. I don't know. I feel like the movie wanted to have Expendables that the main characters could do bad things to, without killing characters that people might have an attachment to.
Hey, we actually got Anthony Brown backstage. He was in the chat. I just saw him. I don't know if he's going to come on camera, but threw him in on stage. You with us, Anthony?
I will. Yeah, I'm here. I'm in the Blackmobile, listening along. So I'm actually pulling into my driveway now, and we'll be on camera here in just a minute. But
hope your wedding was good.
I love the discussion.
All right, great. Well, be careful when you pull in so you don't crash or anything like that, like many of the racers in the race segment. All right. So, Petrawseome, we didn't get to you, though. What is some of the bad stuff? Anything to add on? Anything new that we haven't talked about yet?
So I think maybe the ending part where they, changed to Optimus and Megatron needed a little more time. That's the only thing. I think it was a little too abrupt. I think they built to it, but then I think they could have spent a little more time on that scene.
I kind of feel like the Megatron transition worked for me completely.
Yeah, I don't mean abrupt
the entire movie.
as...
I feel like the Optimus transition did feel a little quick.
Yeah, I think they could have like talked to him more than just, the short little brief chat.
His little his little float through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Also,
and even the final like end credit, like people are like, oh, you have to watch. Like I've read an article that said, oh yeah, you have to stay for it. Like it has big implications for like the future. And I watched it and I was like, that's it. Like we kind of already knew that was going in that direction. So,
well, we knew that they were going to end up called Decepticons, so it's not like it really shocked anybody.
Yeah, I mean, and T-Man particularly called this out. He did love the fact that they brought in like the whole Rise Up, which is kind of like the counter to, Autobots roll out kind of thing, which again was popularized in I think it was one of the IDW runs or something like that. But,
animated.
Oh, I knew animated. That's where it was. Yeah.
Should have been Park It.
Yeah. So I mean, I like that, but I thought, but yeah, I agree with you, Petrawseome. What else did you think? I didn't want to cut you off.
Can we touch on what you just said about the Autobots roll out? How he said that to a bunch of flying seekers?
It also came out of nowhere. Like he'd never said it for the rest of the movie, and then he just had to say it.
That was funny though. I like that.
It was funny.
That sequence was super funny actually.
I think they might have done that for like irony.
Also, Anthony is Anthony's.
Look at Anthony.
Hey, he's here, and look how well dressed he is.
Wow, dude.
Oh, I stay fresher than the produce section, sir.
I don't know, man. I don't know if you can match it. I don't know if you can match this drip, dog. I don't know if you can match this. Dog. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can match that. I got hubcap on here. Can you like? Do you have a hubcap shirt in your? I don't think so.
No.
I got that hubcap on me, dog. I don't know if you can match that.
So, I've been listening the entire time. This is a great discussion.
So why don't you catch us up? Get through some of your good, some of your bad, if you have any. We haven't talked to yet.
So I really enjoyed the movie. I took my two sons with me. Usually they have a hard time sitting through movies, but they were really engaged the entire time. Both of them really loved it. So overall, I think it was a good movie. I'm with Solus in that I really wish that they would have integrated more of the comic history and diversified the Autobots, not just having them all be minors, because it was really more of a Megatron thing. Because if you refer to the comics, Prime was more of a senator or a police officer, not just a minor. So that's kind of a small tweak, but it was fun for us to pick out the different Autobots and Decepticons as they popped up on screen. My oldest son knows how to read now, but my youngest was really frustrated during the race because you would see all the names and he was like, who's winning? So we were telling him the names of who was winning. And so he was like, don't we have him? So that was also pretty fun for my sons to be able to pick out the ones that they do and don't have. I'm like, I'm pretty sure we have almost all of these guys. And they're like, well, you have them all, but we don't. So we need some more Transformers. So they've been trying to finesse me since then to go buy some Transformers for them. So really enjoyed that. I think one of the things that I did not enjoy was there were none of the original voice actors in the movie at all. Like I thought you would at least get Peter Cullen to do a voiceover at the beginning, have him pop up somewhere along the way. That's really kind of my only downside because I know this wasn't made for us. They didn't try to market it to us. And so this is a new generation of people. And I think that they were deliberate in not inviting the older cast into the movie so that we would not have our criticisms of it going forward of the franchise so that they can let this be a launching point for a new generation to be able to pick up on it and take off. So overall, I enjoy the movie. I understand some of the decisions that they made. While I don't agree with them, I understand why they are moving away from our generation and trying to have this be the launching point for another one.
Yeah, T says that would have been cool, but I never thought about that. I think that's fine too. He did say, "Here's the problem: we shouldn't have gone in with anything preconceived." And I think that's hard though, especially when we talked about it before when they had like bad trailers, right?
So I genuinely didn't have any preconceived notions. We did our best to avoid all the trailers. I do that with all the movies that I'm into because I really just want to go into it raw because there is so much history, right? Like I have so much Transformers knowledge and history. Same thing with Marvel stuff. There's always so much there that you always take that into it with you. But I'm like, if I avoid the trailers, I can just enjoy this movie for what it is. And
Smart,
so
probably.
I think that that's what we did. But again, our Transformers, what's the joke? 40 something in disguise, or at this point 50. I see a bunch of people in different groups turning 50, but it's like 40 and 50 something in disguise. And so this isn't meant for us. And so I enjoyed it for what it was and respect it for what it is that they tried to do. And if these actors become the new Optimus Prime for a new generation, then great for them, right? Because Peter Cullen's not going to be around for long, so we have to be able to live with that. And so good. I mean, good on them for making the decision. For me, it was kind of like in the first Transformers live action, the first time we heard Peter Cullen's voice, and that was in 2006 or 2007, I think was when that movie came out.
7, yes.
It was all the nostalgia. So. But to a younger generation, like my son has no idea what a cassette is. So, they had to go a different direction so that they could find something to latch onto. So they loved it. And as long as they loved it, then I think they got what they wanted out of it. But I know that part of the marketing for this was to try to rope us in just from a financial standpoint, because they're like, hey, all of these old heads who love this franchise are probably still going to go no matter what. And because the trailers weren't, from listening to your discussion and other people's discussions on it, what everyone thought it was going to be, I think that's part of the reason why it's underperforming. And so they have to rethink how they're going to go about this second movie.
Yeah, I think one of the things I did want to talk to is the callbacks. And I think, I don't know, maybe I'm just getting old and crotchety, but I'm just like, do we have to do it every single time? Like, more than meets the eye, like the whole Optimus jumping, firing thing that they did. They didn't do it with him this time.
Yeah, the forced in jump shot pose.
No, they did.
No, they did.
They did, but it wasn't him though. It was Alita.
No, it was
right?
Optimus.
No, it was him.
It was Optimus.
He did it in the fight with Sentinel. He
Sentinel.
did in the
freeze
tower.
frame
He
for a
did the
second.
whole thing. I was
The
kind of
touch. Yeah, he
I
did the
remembered
touch.
it wasn't him.
it left. I will say, like, one thing I wanted to speak to, and it kind of doesn't fit into any of the sections. It's kind of halfway in the good and halfway in the bad. What this movie made me personally realize. So I turned 30 in like a week. I grew up with Beast Wars. I didn't come from G1 really. My original Optimus was Optimus Primal. But I know the jumping pose. I agree with T-Man. It made me laugh, but like it was kind of like incredulous. But what this movie made me realize is, for me, like I'm not coming from a place of nostalgia with G1. I had it on like VHS in the 90s, but I don't know. It wasn't the same for me. It made me realize just like how kind of over G1 I am. This had so much fresh ideas, and the characters were kind of handled in a different way. And I was like, wow, I'm kind of blown away by how fresh this feels. And then like looking at some of the G1 stuff again, I'm like, I don't know. I'm kind of ready to be over it. I think Anthony touched on it in a really good way. With this isn't really for kind of existing fans in its way. It's kind of trying to turn a new leaf for the franchise and bring new people and fresh blood into it. And this made me think like I'm kind of ready for the franchise to turn a new corner. You know?
Yeah. And I think they could have done that so many times. I just feel like they always get a little gun shy. But
yeah, it's hard to commit to not going back to the old stuff, like with that jump shot or the different turns and stuff.
The callback that I really enjoyed was when they subtly talked about, you got you don't have the touch or the power, but it was
I actually missed that when I watched it.
Some of the other references back. But one thing that Anthony talked about, I brought my kids and 2 kids from a family friend. They're all about the same age. 2 are 14, 14-year-old boys, so freshman boys. And my son does not want to go anywhere with us anymore. But I dragged him to this because I was like, oh, your friend's coming too. He's your age. And when we came out, and my wife asked him, oh, how was it? He was like, oh, it was actually pretty good. And that shocked me because if you guys have you guys are all younger, but and have younger kids, but to hear anything like that is basically like amazing. He must have been amazed by it, because you cannot get a teenage boy to ever say something positive about anything in life. So when he says it is not bad, like, it was shocking, because usually he's like most other kids who's like, oh, I get tired of this, or he wants to get out of here. And all the kids really enjoyed it. Like literally 4 for 4. 1 girl, 3 boys, 2 teenagers. They were 4 for 4, and I was shocked that it had such widespread appeal. But that said, let me go ahead and move over to the ugly. And I did want to touch on a little bit on the ugly before I let you all go in, because regardless of the good and the bad, especially the good, we talked about all the positive reception. We keep talking about kind of the elephant in the room, like the sequel and what this means for the future of the franchise. We'd love to see this be a new turning of pages into a new era, but the numbers don't lie. So I don't know why the budget number for this is so widespread, but they're saying 75 to 150 million. What
75 is the base, and I think 147 might be with the marketing. Yeah.
But regardless, opening weekend, it only did like $25 million domestically, which is awful. It wasn't even number one. It came behind
lost to Beetlejuice.
Yeah. And that wasn't even the opening weekend for Beetlejuice. And we're all hoping that, great word of mouth, pushing people to theaters next week or the coming weeks. We've seen that happen with other animated films. Second week, it dropped like 70% to $10 million and came in third behind like that new Wild Robot movie and Beetlejuice. Yeah. So right now it's sitting at like 35 million. It does have some international stuff, but
they haven't come out
looking
yet
good
in China and the UK. I think it doesn't come out.
I mean, it's
there's several countries.
There's no other way to put it. This looks terrible. So I did want to start off with that. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it has some legs? Do you think we can get folks like Shirokuro and others to get out there to get it back up and going, to try to recruit some of this? I mean, obviously with this franchise as well, toy sales are going to be a big part of the success as well. But that's one thing I did want to talk to a little bit. We haven't talked about. We talked most about the movie. We talked a little bit about Petrawseome's leader class, but I haven't been collecting any of the toys.
Come on, man! I got the boy. I got the
deluxe, right?
Yeah. He's hitting that.
I mean, we can talk about that, but what do you? Are there any things besides these numbers that you guys would classify as ugly? For me,
I have something, but it has more to do with it's like a marketing. It's not related to like the box office ugly, and it's not actually related to the movie. It has more to do with like Hasbro's.
Totally unrelated.
No, so. The box office is ass, and I think the trailer assassinated this movie. This isn't the first time Paramount did this. The D&D trailer killed the D&D movie.
And that movie was pretty good too.
My friend, the second we got out of the theater, we're walking out of the theater, we're heading over to Shake Shack to buy an overpriced burger. And the first thing he says, one of the first things he says to me, we're actually thinking, and I just like, man, that was a great movie, is like, man, the trailer killed this movie. And they did the same thing last year with D&D. But
only a year ago?
Yeah, I think so. And that's what's going to kill these numbers. And unfortunately, Transformers is like Rise of the Beast did awful, right? Rise of the Beast did pretty bad because it was a summer blockbuster too. It wasn't a September movie. It was a summer blockbuster, and it did terrible. Well, not terrible. Like some people say, like it did okay, but compared to like what you would want out of that movie, especially considering a bunch of really bad movies came out around the same time, it did not great. But I think the problem really was that, some people were saying like this is a new direction for the franchise, and it is, but the real ugly here is that this movie's story existed over a decade ago. This movie is a direct rip basically of the Covenant of Primus / Aligned Bible, which had the 13 primes. It had the Quintessons enslaving Cybertron. It had all of that. a lot of this movie structure, there's some plot changes and elements, but a lot of this story structure comes from that aligned Bible. Hasbro historically spent like $300K on that Bible to be like the going forward thing for their media after 2012. And it didn't end up connecting to video games. The Transformers Prime creative team basically ignored almost all of it except for like the 13 primes. And a lot of the stories, like lore and concepts, have actually been said before, just not to the public in this manner. And it's like, we had this movie. We have had this movie. We had ILM. We had ILM making movies for us 10 years ago. We had the script. Why did it take us so long? Why did we burn so much public goodwill with Age of Extinction the last night? Like, why did we make those movies? Michael Bay himself was like, I did not want to make Age of Extinction. Paramount told me that if you make 2 movies for us, we'll fund Pain and Gain. And Pain and Gain was actually a good movie. So he made 2 god-awful movies to fund one movie he actually... Like, why would you make a movie if the core creative behind it doesn't even want to make it, when you have all the elements for a good animated movie in your back pocket, sitting inside like a idea vault in your headquarters? They've had the Bible for over a decade. I was 12 when they had that thing. They could have made this movie in 2013 instead of making another garbage live action movie.
I mean, but I think it's the same reason why like sequels and remakes are so prevalent, right? They're gun shy, and especially nowadays, especially post COVID, with like the theaters doing the way that they do. It's like, you talk about the different directors. Like Matt Damon had a really good interview that they asked about this, right? Like Hollywood is even more gun shy now than they have ever been, but even back then they were so afraid of trying something new and different, and it's so much easier because there's already some of that marketing built up in the previous movies. Even if they were bad, they were still making money, that it was a lower risk for them, right? So I mean, I understand it. I don't agree with it either, but I think that's just the reality. I mean, that's why we have so many, even video games, like all media, like we have so many video games, we have so many TV shows that are literally remakes or revisiting. Yeah, so I mean, it sucks, but it kind of is what it is. Until, I think the one thing that I will say is that I have hopes that we have more smaller, more independent opportunities. Like if they're not so, I don't know, protective of their IP and allow folks to be a little bit braver, like with the new comic book series, doing things that are a bit different, revisiting that, killing Bumblebee. Like, sorry for the spoiler on that, but stuff like that. But I think, and even like, the grassroots crowdfunded movies that they're doing nowadays, smaller budget, things that they come out with, TV shows or direct streaming and stuff like that. I have hopes that those will provide more avenues for, instead of Hollywood, because I just don't know that Hollywood's going to be super sustainable in the theater mentality that we have. So, I mean, that's the only hope I have, that they're going to not always just be keeping everything close to the vest and only thinking about shopping into the biggest directors and distributors and stuff like that. So
the thing I wanted to add real quick. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to talk about the financial side, right? Since that's kind of my day job. To me, one of the biggest reasons why it's not being the box office standard is they had so many big, high-priced names behind it. Like Chris Hemsworth isn't going to do this movie, for less than like $10 or $15 million, right? Like when you look at all the names, everyone wants their cut of the pie, and so that's a big part of the budget. When they talk about the marketing and everything that went into it, and even the animation and what they paid for animation, this movie was going to market itself because they knew who their core. They knew that if they did it a certain way, there was a core audience that was going to pick it up. In terms of burning the public trust, I feel like the Netflix cartoon did more to burn the public trust than, because the Netflix
that thing was ass.
Right, but the Netflix cartoon, was supposed to be G1-ish, right? And I still haven't finished it because it just wasn't what we all thought it was going to be. So I think that when you look at those different things, I do think that putting this movie out, when they first announced it, and Hasbro said, hey, they're going to do 2 Transformer animated movies, everyone's reaction was for who, for what? At least from our generation, right? Or the people like this who are watching this stream or care about Transformers and collect them, because we were like, hey, you've had literally all these other flops, right? I think the first Transformers movie was good, and then everything after that just kind of steadily declined from there. We can quibble about, where this one and that one fall in the order, but it's usually the first one was the best to me, and then everything that they've done post that has been trying to ride the wave or recapture the wave or do whatever, to the point where I haven't watched Age of Extinction or any of those other movies. So I think that they were set up for failure from the start. And I think that if they would have used smaller names to cut back on their budget and then had, and still had this same story, then we would get this way. But, you have to pay the Helmsworth guy and all the other famous voice actors to go out and do all these media appearances and promote this movie and everything else. So that's part of your shortfall. The toys were always going to be the toys, and they were always going to come. The same thing with their animation. For everything that this movie was and it wasn't, there really wasn't a lot of transformation involved. So you just got a bunch of, robots walking around until they got their sparks, which was 3/4 of the way through the movie. But even in the race, it was just cars that were already transformed, just floating around. So, there was a lot of, I feel like if that was going to be the way, you didn't necessarily have to do all this heavy 3D animation. You could have done a 2D, 2D animation like the original cartoon, but upscale it a bit. Again, let's just go back to Spider-Man Through the Spider-Verse. Like, you could pick any of those 2D models that they did in the Spider-Verse movies and save some money on that. But I think that, this was kind of dead from the start because there was no enthusiasm amongst us before this movie came out. And so even within the Pake server and other, groups that I'm a part of, everyone was just like, are you going to go see the movie? And everyone was like, and so we were all half in, half out. But if they would have made a more deliberate effort to market it to us, I think that you'd see this number greatly rise. And I don't begrudge them for not doing it, but I think that this was DOA because there was no need in the community. There was no want in the community for it because that equity was already gone. So I don't think that them, putting out a almost $100 million movie in cost was ever going to be successful. And so to me, that's just poor strategic planning, because you have to know when you're putting this out who you're making this movie for. Like when Disney puts these princesses out, they know that, there's all these generations of women who grew up on Disney princesses that are going to take their daughters to see it. And, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, they know who their target audience is. And with this, Hasbro knew who their target audience was and decided to shift away from that. And that was a business decision, which, we just see it here because everyone's like, hey, I'm dragging this guy. And even for me, I wasn't going to go see it originally, but then, I heard some chatter about it. And then I was like, you know what? I really do need to take my boys to go see it just because it's something for us to do. I'm frustrated with football, for various reasons. And so I was just like, yeah, let's go do this. Right. Like, hey, you lost the lead to Michigan. I was just like, you know what? I'm done with football. I'm just going to we're going to movies. Like I need to walk this off. But also the other thing is how much the box offices are charging. We went to go see a matinee and it was $48 for 3 people to go see this movie. And that's before you get into, concessions and everything else, because you can't take your kids to the theater and not feed them or give them stuff to drink. And yes, you can sneak stuff in and yada, yada, yada. I get all that. But when you look at that, it's like, hey, am I really going to make the same amount of investment to go see this movie that it takes for me to go a 10-day sporting event if I don't go see a matinee on this movie? And so when people are making that trade-off, it's like, I can go take you to see this movie, or I can buy you the entire set of toys for the same price.
Yeah.
And so that's where, because that's also where the trade-off is that, okay, you like this movie, now I have to go and reinvest in these toys. And so not everyone, especially in in the current economy, and I'm not talking politics or anything like that, so please calm down if you think that's where I'm going. But in this current economy, where you look at how much you have to spend and then you have to turn around and spend those same dollars somewhere else, it becomes a $200-300 investment to do all of this, if your kids like the movie. And so hopefully you can catch it. But again, for us, if you look at like the way Target, because Target's kind of been the main one pushing this, their sale ended 2 days after the movie started. So if you didn't go see it the first weekend when they were having their 20-25% off, then you didn't get to take advantage of that right away. So you had to be a day one adopter, right, of the franchise. And then if your kids liked it, then you got a discount. But now if you weren't, you have to pay full price for these toys. And so that becomes a huge investment. And so I think that's why Hasbro's not seeing the return on their investment. So sorry, I got really geeky on that, but business is what I do for my day job. So
especially considering how expensive even like the basic classes of toys have gotten now. Like,
yeah, I wanted to touch on that actually, because we booked, we got the nice AMC seats, the electric ones, the Prime, but we went on Tuesday at noon. So we got the 20% off. Even then it was $16 per person for 2 adults. And then we spent $16 each on these collectible cups with little guy, right? Because we're idiots.
That was your mistake.
Yeah, it's a really nice little tank, but we're idiots, right? Anyways, it was funny. After the movie, I go to Target and they don't have anything I want. They have the Prime Changers try on, and I like trying the movie. I'm like, I'm gonna buy that, and then I scan it. It's like $23, and I'm like, dog, I can't even pay $23 for a Studio Series Deluxe or like a Legacy Deluxe, and this is like the simplified version. I thought these were supposed to be like $15 to $20, right? It's like, so I didn't get anything after the movie, even though I was like in a mood to like buy a toy because I like the movie. I'm like, I'm gonna buy something from the movie, and instead I'm more satisfied with my little tank guy, right? Because I like Megatron, so I'm more satisfied with my cup.
The only, I guess this may be in the bad section for me, not the ugly, but I didn't love most of the designs. It's even the alt modes for most of the characters. The only one that I really want is Arachnid, and we're probably never going to get one because it's such a unique design. It's probably
so out there,
so hard to do. So
I
really
love the bit with the eyes. That was incredible.
Well, I like the legs too, and I like the kind of drone style that it has.
Yeah, I like the big round holes in the legs and everything.
Yeah, I would love for them to do it like that. That's something that I would really like, but I just don't see happening. But like the Prime, I don't know. The Prime design, I think, is so meh. And the others are, I mean, they're all pretty meh. I think that's my problem with them, and that's why I haven't bought literally any of the toys. And it's not like I have to have G1 designs because I like some of the Prime designs. I like some of the others. I even the animated designs grew on me. But these just seem really uninspired to me for some reason.
Yeah, I was saving this for the ugly. I was.
Oh, okay.
This is what I wanted to touch on.
We've been waiting.
Yeah, I mean, so my ugly take is definitely with the visual style as far as the character designs go. Like, I'm honestly of the opinion that the body designs and stuff are mostly fine. Like, I'm like, okay, yeah, that reads as Optimus. He's kind of got I was like, yeah, he's got the boobs, he's got the whole thing. They check all the boxes. Megatron's got his scope fusion cannon for when he's still D16. It has the right shape and everything. They got to check the boxes. But the thing for me really was just the faces. Like, I know that you kind of are obligated to have the faces be smooth and kind of human-like so they can be expressive and with the motion captured actors and everything. It's required, but somehow that's the thing out of everything in the whole movie that I liked looking at the least, like ugly-wise. Like, just the way they did all the faces, like with the eyebrows and the emotive noses and stuff. I don't know. It really that was the ugly for me. It was just it didn't really freak me out, I guess, but I just thought it just wasn't good to look at. I was like, I don't know. Like, I saw an edit back when the first trailers came out where they like for D16 they just removed his eyebrows, so they dumped the helmet down to right here, kind of more G1-y. And I was like, that fixes a lot of the problem I have right there. Is just get rid of the eyebrows. Cut the eyebrows out.
I guess in that case, he would automatically from the get-go look a little bit more mean, I think. If you
Yeah, I mean, I get like, and two, it's important for expressiveness. Humans have eyebrows. You motion capture a human face, you want to have eyebrows.
It's
But,
funny
like-
that you mentioned that real quick on the side. Did you know like that animated movie Spirit, the one with the horses? They added
They had
eyebrows to
eyebrows.
horses, even though they don't typically have eyebrows, because they was one of the only ways that they felt that they can make it expressive. And
Yeah,
So-
like, I mean, it does a lot for like the expressiveness, but I don't know, like just to look at it, I'm just like, I don't know, you know, it just the eye. It's really, I take umbrage with the eyebrows. And like, I wish, like, one little thing I wish they'd done is I wish, you know, like I have an example. Give me one second. Ignore the boxes. Like, one thing that a lot of G1 designs did is, you know, they have like the lines in the face.
oh yeah,
Like the detenting along the, like the tracing. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like if they'd done even anything like that, because nobody had that. Everybody's face was like beautiful and smooth and moisturized in the whole movie. Like, even when you first are introduced to like D16 and he's fresh out of the mine and he's pushing a minecart, his face is nice and shiny and clean. You know, everybody in Iacon really takes face moisturization seriously. No wrinkles, no cracks, no nothing.
They have their before bedtime serum and everything like that going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they have energon problems, because everybody's taking their face skin supplements. And I feel, except not the Cryon, that dude is wrinkly.
One thing that I think also took away from this is that when you guys were talking about the character designs, there was no Transformer that jumped out, right? Like, when we talk about Rise of the Beast, that Optimus Primal, like, that's an all-time figure. That's an all-time design. And with these toys, the toys came out way before we knew what they were going to look like in everything else. And there's not a figure that jumps out that says, hey, this is what collectors want to go for. I remember when that Optimus Primal came out, the Studio Series and even all the other third-party editions, everyone was snapping those up because they're like, this is really, really good. And I think that if they would have made more, you know, Cybertronian stylized figures that people wanted to buy, and they hit like even 2 or 3 of them out of the park, that we would have snapped all that stuff up and we would have been all over it. But again, that's where I say there was the missed opportunity here, to take advantage of the people that were really going to help fill that hole in your budget, because all the toys are just mid, right? And even the ones where, even though they didn't have cogs, it was like, hey, we can see all these people with a giant hole in their chest the entire movie. And, you know, we needed something else, because it's like, okay, we get it, none of you guys have transformation cogs or whatever, but they could have done something, reimagined them, redesigned them. You know, there was the part where Metroplex lost his transformation cog and they, you know, they look misshapen or whatever. And like, that would have made more reason for them to be, you know, treated the way they were. Like, hey, look at these deformed Transformers over here without their transformation cogs or whatever. But instead it's just like, hey, we have cogs and you don't. But, you know, we're still mining all the Energon because for some reason without a transformation cog, we still need Energon. You know, and so all that stuff just was very weird to me and took away from what it is that Hasbro could have done. And again, contributed to kind of where the financial bottom line is.
So before we go to kind of closing up, I did want to say just one thing from each of you that you would like to see in a sequel, should it happen. Again, by these numbers, may not happen, at least not as a movie, maybe as a TV show. But let's go through all of you and say, what is the one thing that you would like to see in a sequel? So I know that I'm just putting that out there. Does anybody wants to go first if they had their wish list for the next movie? Hot
Rod.
Oh,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Make him French.
I want to see them just kind of explore more of the Transformers universe. I guess I missed the part if anyone talked about the Quintessons.
I loved their bio ships. That should have been in the good.
No way.
So to me, it was also awkward that, you know, they're like, we'll be back. And then all this stuff happens. And at the end of the movie, all you've got is Autobots running around the surface of Cybertron. and the Quintessons never show up. I think if you want to make a second movie, you have to leave it on a cliffhanger, right, where the Quintessons show up at the end. And then now this is a war story, because I think that's the other thing, is that there was a lot of dialogue and backstory and yada. I get it, world building, but I think that if you really want to sell a second movie, hey, it's time for us to fight. And I think that that's where you get a lot of awesome transformation sequences. I'm sure you can recreate people dying in different formats in the movie, in these different transformation sequences and things like that. So I think that was a missed opportunity that I'd like to see them, part of the things that,
Yeah. So I wanted to touch on that because that's what I actually want for my sequel. If they were to make this, I kind of wanted to have kind of a three-way war going on here. So
Exactly.
I wouldn't want it to go directly into like the Autobots versus Decepticons. I'd like them to have their differences and skirmishes, but become still united underneath a shared effort to overcome
Like
the
a common
Quintessons in the
foe.
second movie,
Mhm.
and then set up like at the end after they overcome a betrayal again by Megatron, maybe killing off Optimus or something like that, to set up the third movie where it ends up going into like a full-on Autobot Decepticon war. But yeah, that's what I would really hope for. Like you see them battling in the beginning, but then they come together for the greater good, begrudgingly becoming allies again, and maybe setting up a little bit of hope that maybe Optimus and Megatron can come back together. But then ultimately, again, setting up for a third movie where it'll be the full-out war between Autobots and Decepticons. So it's kind of cool that you touched on that, and you saw that T kind of said that as well. I mean, maybe that's why they didn't want to go too much into it, just tease the bigger bad for the sequel. All right, so who wants to go next on what they would like in their sequel? Transformers 2. We'll call it Transformers 2. Petra, John?
I can go.
Okay.
So I think I heard that like they have plans for like 2 more movies if they get approved or whatever. So a lot of like the thoughts were like next would be like the war for Cybertron kind of stuff with the Quintessons, and then in the third movie they would go to Earth or something like that. So I kind of want to see it, fleshed out, and maybe even, introduce like non-G1 characters in the second movie that are kind of, known names in Transformers. Even maybe new characters too would be kind of interesting.
Oh, I mean, that's kind of an idea, right? It's rare that we actually see new characters.
Actual new names.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Not just like same names, but new design kind of thing. Or like renaming new Transformers as old character names, and then having to retcon that, like Devastator and stuff like that. What about you, Junk or Solus? No? Nothing?
I mean, as far as things I'd like to see, I'm sure you've kind of already touched on it, Pike. Like, the big thing for me is I would love to see. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows that the likelihood is going to be versus the Quintessons. Like, I can't see them doing anything else. I do say I think I agree with Anthony. They really missed a chance to have a sequel hook. Like, you had the post-credit scene and everything, but there was no sequel hook. They didn't leave you hanging for more. But yeah, I'd love to see like a situation like what you outlined with Megatron and Optimus having to begrudgingly set their differences aside for a common foe, with some battles and stuff in beforehand. I'd love to see some civil war, and then they're forced to kind of set their differences aside and begrudgingly work together again, and then the civil war comes back at the end for the sequel hook, right? That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go cliche, like they go in battle, and then somehow Optimus and Megatron end up being stranded, having to work with each other.
Yeah, they get chained together by a
right, like very cliche. And then they have
two-legged
to
race.
And then they finally get it free, and they work together, and they prevail, and then they're like, "This doesn't mean we're friends. This doesn't change anything," right? That cliche line.
I mean, he did kill him, right? Like, I don't know that I'd get over that anytime soon.
They just kill him off. One other thing I'd love to see them do is I really would like to see them push the transformation aspect a little more. Like, of the characters we saw in this, like, they were all pretty straightforward, except for Arachnid, right? Who almost kind of felt out of place because she was so out there and cool looking and edgy and interesting. And I really would love to see them do some more, push the transformation stuff a little more. Do some cool stuff with, if they do combiners, maybe do some really cool stuff with the transformation sequences. I would love to see characters on screen transform more, which I feel like we should have had like in the main cast in this one, even just like one character who still had a cog, just so you had somebody transforming on screen for half the movie.
Yeah. Oh, and we talked a little bit about that. I forget who it was, but we're talking about like the generic grunts and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, the generic on.
Yeah. I never
guys.
understood those. Like even in like Prime, the Viacons, where they're like identical, they look exactly the same. Like, are they like sentient or are they like drones or like? I never understood like the Viacons and stuff.
These guys didn't even get lines in this one. Like they just were. There was a bunch of them. They all looked the same and turned into the same thing with different color schemes.
Down like the hill and stuff like that, running down the hill when they got their cogs. And stuff
they didn't even have lines. Like they were like stormtroopers, but they didn't even get like the comedy stormtrooper line. Like they could have been mumbling in the foreground when they're rolling down the hill, and then one of them goes, "Oh, he could have a comedy line about it."
This is interesting, teammates. I feel like Arachnid may have been partially Quintesson. That could be something.
Do you think maybe part of the reason like the Cogless bots were so generic is because they don't have alt modes?
Oh, they said one. Blag and Puff pointed it out when they're fighting Alpha Trion. They say "Stand down, old timer," and then he massacres them.
Oh yeah, they do have the one line.
They have one line in the entire movie.
It is a pretty good line though.
I think what Peg was saying, they're intentionally meant to like blur the line between like, are they drones, are they sentient, so that like you can have like these expendable characters to like beat up and maim and mask. Because in Transformers Prime, they're super brutal with the drones. Like,
they're very violent.
Like in one of the first like episodes, Bulkhead like tears the throat out of one of them, which like if he did that to like any other character, you'd be like, wow, that's like incredibly violent for an Autobot, right?
Yeah.
Like he like tears like his whole throat or spark chamber out, and like he like drops the wires on the ground. It even tells like the human character in the scene to look away. And so it's like a way for them to get away with like gratuitous violence because they are robots and these aren't sentient. But then like in TFP, they did actually appear sentient at times, so it's like kind of a blurred line.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of did that to Sentinel, who was very, sentient. The gruesome aspect of him.
To be fair, yeah, yeah, they were pretty. They didn't shy away from violence. The whole this is gonna sound stupid, but the whole like circular meeting place, it's a trap, etc. I immediately thought of Invincible with like the 13 Primes.
Oh yeah.
And like it was pretty the massacring of 13 Primes was kind of violent because like he like decapitated the Fallen and like a bunch of people got stabbed and it was pretty violent for a PG movie. Yeah.
Oh, I also didn't really understand why Alpha Trion was like a animal.
Like that's the only beast form. It's because it looks cool.
It's a reference to his toy and
no, I get what it's a reference to, but I was like,
it's not a place.
Remember they were like when they got to the surface, they're like, this is like organic. It was like the first thing ever. But then they have like this
the robot
that is clearly like not robot like so it just seemed kind of out of place. I mean cool, it's fine, but I just thought another one of those weird nitpicks. But all right, so I do want to start wrapping this up.
Oh, let me get my sequel thing in. Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
So I think the thing I'm going to say is like the thing I think a lot of us are thinking. I want a sequel. Is like my thing for a sequel is I want it to happen because the movie was good. I liked it. I enjoyed going to the theater and watching a good Transformers movie. I haven't done that in like 18 years, dog, and I've only been alive for 23. So like, I would like to do that again. Like preferably not like a rewatching an old movie like in a theatrical rerun, but I'd like to go watch it. I'd like to have this feeling again of being like, oh my god, because what happened with me was that one of my friends saw it a month early and she was like, it was amazing. Like it was great. And I'm like, really? Because before that I thought it was garbage. And then another one of my friends saw it early and he's like, yes, it's great. And then another one person saw it early and like, they're all like, it's great. And I'm like, oh my God. And I almost went early. I couldn't because of work, but I actually enjoyed being like cautiously optimistic, excited, having fun during a movie, talking with my friends about a good movie. I want to experience that again. That's like my main thing for the sequel is like let it happen, let it be in theaters, and even if it's like an unrealistic hope at this point, I want it to happen. I want it to be good. So I'm always saying I want it to be good again. Like let's like even if it's like not likely, like let's repeat this same like I want to say all-star performance, because it like don't make it like a one and done fluke, you know? Like I want to see this universe go forward and continue to make like good movies. Like even if we have our problems, I think we all know that it's like that's a good movie, right?
Yeah.
Like that's good food. Like it has issues. I wouldn't eat it every day, but I really want to eat it again.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I just want to be excited again. You know, like this year, like we had some really weird stuff. You know, I hated Earthspark season 2. I thought I even liked the first season, but the second season was garbage. But the comics are really good. I like the Trigger, the Studio Trigger tribute video, and I love this movie. So I really am kind of excited for the brand, despite usually being pessimistic. And I would like to continue that feeling. I would like to have a second movie.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was going to try to squeeze in a segment here, because I was going to talk about like the future Transformers, because one of the things that we've seen even in just the recent weeks is so many collaborations. The Transformers doing like the Transformers like
Monster Hunter.
Yeah, and then aren't they doing like a
Godzilla?
Godzilla.
Oh my god!
The Overwatch.
Yeah,
one?
they did Overwatch.
Overwatch.
Minecraft one that they just showed the other day that looked pretty good. There's so many like collaborations that they're doing, which I think is just kind of crazy that they're all coming. They all announced a bunch of them in just the span of a couple weeks. So
the thing is, they're all Takara. Like it almost feels like Takara is bringing their A game for the 40th. Like Takara is really like locking in, and like it feels like, man, like none of these toys are even releasing in the West. Like I know the Godzilla stuff, like people like don't like it, and I don't like it either. But like the Monster Hunter thing, even if it doesn't look great, like it does seem to have effort behind it. The Trigger video was insane. I think that's like straight up one of the best things we've ever gotten. That was an incredible 4 minutes of my life. I will never feel that way again. But I don't know, man. I just the only like really good thing I felt like coming out of the West this year was probably Skybound and this movie. And
that Knight Rider car.
That looks crazy. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Is it coming out soon? Is it like shipping or whatever?
It's already out in some places. Yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
That looks great.
It didn't sell out, so I think we'll be able to get it.
Awesome.
Pretty quick.
So hold on.
Especially since it's MP size. That's the other thing. Like it has a chug transformation, but it's MP size, so it's like okay. And it looks like it's a good sculpt on the head and everything else. So I'm like, yeah, I was excited when they showed it, but then when people did the side by side, I was just like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah. All right. So real quick, I wanted to go through some of the things that I always include at the very end. I did want to do comment time. I only had one, even though it's been like a year, but this one like made me literally laugh out loud when I saw it. It's from our very own Shiro Kuro, who's with us live. He said, this love-hate thing between Paik and FT has been going on for several seasons now. When are the writers just going to make them kiss and get it over with? Oh, I died when I read this. Because I definitely have a love-hate relationship with FT. We have Gary coming out. I don't even know how you're supposed to pronounce it. But
is it Jerry?
I think it's Gary. I might be crazy, though.
Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, as usual, there's already things when we saw, like, what the heck's going on? Why can't they just do a normal waist swivel with any of their combiners? There's always something effed up, like turning one way or only getting like 10 degrees each way or none at all. Like it looks.
You're trying so hard to beat the fans boy allegations, Paik. Just give in. Just give in. You know you love their toys.
It's so hard.
Are you serious? He's saying he's criticizing them on video. We need to start the prayer circle right away.
I know.
No. It's just a cover, man. We all know he's a fans boy.
Well, did you see Enyal and I never know Enyal's short? He did a short there. He called out Toys fans as like a cult, and he goes on about it for like 30 seconds. I'm like, oh, he's dead. He
lives in Puerto Rico. There's like a whole ocean between him and the Facebook group. They can't access him yet.
All right, so that was the only comment time that I had. What's the next one that we had? Oh, so again, the last time we did this was end of December. So I did want to recognize the top 3 contributors for all of 2023. I'm going to have to do some kind of thank you somehow for this, but King Rouse Reviews, Thang Nguyen, and Princeton Phalanx 59, thank you for being the biggest contributor to 2023. I'm going to have to do some recognition for you guys somehow, but Let's see. For 2024, even though we're like 3/4 of the way through, we have 3 folks that are topping the leaderboard. We got Le Monster, Ridiculous Badger, my extraordinaire on Discord, my Discord. If you haven't been on our Discord, click on the description link below. It's a lot of fun. We have all these folks on here as well as other folks. We talk about all sorts of things, not just Transformers. A lot of cat lovers out there. For some reason, Anthony Brown made me start like a sports one that like 2 people engage in there. We talk about TV shows, movies, all sorts of other stuff. Not other collectibles and stuff like that. JUNKMECH in the customizing one. That's where we saw some of his Skyfire updates and stuff like that, and painting. So it's all good stuff. Just behind TM Reviews as number 3 is actually Anthony Brown. You're like 796, and I think Princeton's like 796. There's a bunch of folks that
Princeton just shot himself into first place,
and it looks like and Princeton just jumped up to the leaderboard with a $10 super sticker. So he's definitely in the lead now. But I think TM Reviews, he has a secret sauce. He knows that most people donate $1.99, so he's been donating $2 just to squeak out by pennies a bunch of folks that are tied for 4th. But no, Princeton, you're probably already. I think you already donated previously, so you're probably in first place now. But I did want to recognize this, folks. Next time, so one of the things that I'm going to do is I have a bunch of stuff that like T-Man sent me some stuff and TM sent me some stuff that I need to unbox. I have some stuff from Korea that are like really, or Asia during my trip, that are like very small, quick, non-transforming stuff. So I might just do kind of like a weekend marathon review where I'm just doing a whole bunch of stuff to try to catch up. And you can see, I actually organized. It doesn't look like it's organized, but down here are a bunch of figures that I've been meaning to review. That'll be a lot easier. So like, I don't know,
Marvel Legends,
SH Figure Art stuff, things that aren't transforming. So that won't take a bunch of time. So stuff like that, I'm going to try to speed through and do that. I do want to come back and do Chatterday because we only did 1 episode of that last time. I think JUNKMECH was the winner of that one, blew out the competition. So
the trivia.
Yeah, we got to do Jeopardy. We got to do 2 more rounds of that so we can at least do a final Jeopardy sometime this year. So I actually started a bunch of the questions for the second one last year and then got busy. But for sure, we'll be doing more Jeopardy because I love that. That's actually some of my most fun stuff. I might actually start recruiting people who have already been contestants to help me with thinking of questions because that's just the most time consuming. It's like one of the most fun things, but it takes forever to come up with that many questions. It's like 52 questions and having to come up with like themes and stuff like that. It's just super, super time consuming. So I might need to start enlisting some help on that one. Like I said, Gary's coming up, and then I do have some other things that I want to catch up on. One thing that has been in this mangled up form, Solus, I got this figure because of you.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been in this mangled up in between form because the instructions are trash and I can't figure out how to think. So this has been like this since like day 3 of having opened it. And
you got to MGO that thing, man.
Yep, MGO.
I have, and I can't get some of the. I don't understand some of the portions of it. Like I tried a number of different reviews and I just can't get it to work. So it's super frustrating. But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that I want to do. I'm not going to commit timelines to this because I know I'm really bad about that, especially this year. And it's starting to get towards the holidays. So, and I have a bunch of trips coming up in October. So I'm going to try my best, but I think that's mostly the things that are coming up. And again, thanks to everyone that keeps asking me to do reviews, keeps pushing me to do Chatterdays. Anthony Brown is one of the people that said he's going to beat me up at TFCon in November, which I will be at. I'll be there all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the Toy Dojo booth. So come by and say hi. It's the first con I've been to in since like a year or 2. So I will be there for that in November. That's one of my trips that I'll be doing at the end of October, early November. So that is also a thing that's coming up. With that, that's it for today, everyone. Once real quick, wanted to let everyone who joined us today say some quick final words before we let everyone go. So let's start with Petra.
Like, I guess my biggest takeaway, from the movie is like hope for the future of Transformers. So I think that's, the best thing.
No, awesome. Thanks, Petra. All right, JUNKMECH.
My last words, I like G1. I like G1. Stop saying I hate G1 and I want it to go away. I have so many G1 masterpieces. Leave me alone. It's fine. But yeah, I like G1. I want to be hopeful for the future, and I'd like to see, the franchise grow in new and interesting ways. Kind of like with Petra.
All right, Anthony.
As always, Peg, thanks for having me. Thanks for hosting this. It's always a blast when we get together. Everyone, if you're watching this, seeing this later, come out to TFCon. It's an amazing time. You always meet great friends. Got to meet Solus in person. Look forward to meeting Henry in person. This community is awesome, online and in person. So apparently it's going to be a pretty big get together. So if you're in the area or if you have an opportunity to come, please come and hang out. You don't necessarily need to meet Peter Cullen and do all that other fun stuff. Not that that's not awesome too, but just be a part of the community because it really is awesome. And you get to buy a lot of Transformers without having to pay extra for S&H or taxes while you're at TFCon. So we talk about saving money. That's a trick and a tip. Also, you can't barter online, but you can barter in person. So people looking to save some money, you might be able to do that there. So
especially Sunday, late day Sunday.
So like everyone else, I really enjoyed the movie. I look forward to a second one. Hopefully we're able to get that done, or the studios are able to get that done, and they will heed some of the concerns of some of us older people, because as you can see in Petrawseome's background, we're still more than willing to shell out a lot of money for this stuff. So you guys just need to give us a reason. So hopefully they'll find a way and a reason to get us hooked in, so that G1ers will not rest in peace, JUNKMECH, and we will continue to fund this hobby for generations to come.
All right, Solus.
As always, thanks for having me. I think it's a shame we don't have Badger in the chat asking for a Apache or Fans Toys Springer size comparison.
He owes me one. Pake owes me one because he didn't do one on the last aerial bike.
I don't have Apache. I only have the MMC one.
That's what I'm saying. I paid for a comp and I didn't get one in the F2.
Okay. All right. Which one was that? What figure was that?
It was the
Silver
Slingshot.
Slingshot. Oh, I thought I did that. Did I not do that?
No, you didn't have time.
Yeah, because that was probably the long one.
That was a marathon review.
Yeah.
Sorry, Solus.
No, it's all good. I mean, I had a fun time as always. Chatterdays are fun. If we could do another one before 2025, that would be great. I'm not.
He has to do the end of the year one at least, right?
I mean, what comes first? Next Transformers sequel or a Chatterday? You find out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but as always, a fun time, great time. Thanks everyone who showed up. Look forward to seeing from you guys. Look forward to chatting with everyone in the Pake Discord. It's always a fun time. We usually don't have any problems. Otherwise, Pake will take care of it. But great time. Hope we get some good toys. Hope the prices go down. That'll be nice. But yeah, thanks everybody.
Yeah, I agree with everyone. Thanks for the great time. Thanks everyone for volunteering and pushing again. Hope everyone, if you haven't seen it already, I don't know why you're here. We just spoiled a bunch of it, but even still, highly recommend it. Go out and see it. We need to support it, because otherwise, if we don't support the good ones like this, then we're gonna get more bad ones. So more live action human.
Somehow
garbage.
Michael Bay returned.
Yeah, where Shia LaBeouf is kissing a robot girl and tasting like motor.
Oh no!
People like that if that happened.
We can't.
He technically did in the second movie.
Shia LaBeouf, Master Chief? Question mark.
But yeah, let's support this one. This is actually a good one, so we got to make it count. People say it all the time. We got to vote with our wallets. Let's try to do it this time. So if you haven't seen it, highly recommend you see it just as a fan. But even if you're not a fan, like Most of my kids are no longer real Transformers fans because I can't. They're old enough where I can't pressure them into being fans anymore. But they enjoyed it, and like my family friends, kids, they went with us. They're not Transformers fans at all. They loved it. So if you have anybody who think you would enjoy it, please go ahead and take them. And again, let's try to get those numbers up so we can hopefully get a sequel where Megatron and Optimus are handcuffed together and go on a odd couple adventure again. With that, everyone, I appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Hope you guys have a good night. I'm gonna go play some Zelda Echo of Wisdom.
Fight on.
Bye all.